A few days ago, I was training at the gym, and everything was going fine, feeling great. And I ducked. So it's if you're going to avoid a punch, and so basically you kind of roll over like this. I'd done it 1,000 times before. I did it this time, and I felt something in my lower back, so L3, L4, L5, lower lumbar. And I felt it just kind of do this. And it was like, oh, shoot. All right, so I stopped, of course, and I just kind of stretched it out, and I kind of relaxed. I thought, okay, it's maybe just a muscle thing, and if I just kind of stretch this and cool off properly, it will be okay. Well, it wasn't. And it was probably 2 or 3 hours afterwards. I was standing up straight, and I went to pick up a box that weighed maybe 10 pounds, maybe 15, and my back spasmed. Managed to get into a chiropractor, my chiropractor, actually within half an hour. So that was Tuesday. Today's Sunday. And I've been nursing it back ever since. I've had through a chiropractor, I've had a massage, and I've had an osteopath treatment in the last, 5 days, trying to get this back. Pardon the pun, get my back back. And for the first probably 3 days, it would spasm. It was not good trying to roll over. It would spasm. It was not fun at all. And it's still not 100%, but it's definitely 100% better than it was. When you're pushing your limits, and that's really the only way, when you're consciously pushing your limits, you're consciously pushing past what you're previously been able to do. Now, whether it's in your physical ability or whether it's in your thought processes, and of course those are two halves of the same thing. And again, this is something that I taught right from the beginning, is understanding and recognizing the value of resistance. And one of the clearest ways or indicators that you're moving forward, especially when you're pushing through your existing limitations into something greater, into a greater expression of yourself, is resistance. And this is why, for me, none of this stuff, whether it be physical training in my case, whether it be developing your spirituality, changing your thought processes, and again, those are all pieces of the same pie, right? It requires you to push through your limits. And if you're doing that, and when you're doing that efficiently, you're going to experience resistance. This is why I would always teach about resistance, because so often it's not taught about that way. It's not taught that. Often it's taught that if you're doing everything right, that you will have no resistance and everything will be roses and sunshine. Whatever you're doing when you're pushing and expanding through your limits, that if you're doing it right, there'll be no problems, there'll be no challenges, there'll be no injuries. And boy, the number of people that I have followed, both, if you will, spiritually, I'll use that word, and then physically in kickboxing, those that have really excelled and continue to excel at it, they've experienced injuries. They just have. They've done all the right precautions, they've done all the right things, and yet part of that process is you're going to experience injuries or setbacks, if you want to use those words, or resistance. And I think the key is, and this is where that refining comes into and becoming a spiritual warrior, is what do you do with those? Right? It's not trying to avoid them. I mean, you don't go looking for them, but understanding that more likely than not, you're going to experience resistance. One of the fellows from the gym, he's been kickboxing for about a year. He was sparring, and he got and it wasn't hard sparring, and he got a side kick to the ribs that put him out for 2 weeks. Now, did he stop? No. Am I going to stop? No. But so many people do. When you and believe me, it's something when I go from, like 6 hours for that matter, when I'm throwing like head high kicks and everything like that for me to even move, other than being flat on my back on the floor and kind of support, and then to get off the floor with having my back spasm. And just like that, it changed. And it's not fun. Those of you who experienced it, again, physical, non-physical, the blending of them, you're going to experience that when and as you're pushing through your limitations. And of course, that's where growth is. Growth is not within your limitations currently. Growth is pushing through and past them and becoming that spiritual warrior. I was going to say, I believe, I know, somewhere along the line, you're going to experience injuries. And then the question you ask yourself is, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to allow that to sidetrack you? Are you going to allow that to cause you to stop? To go, so for me, well, whatever, you're 63 and you're doing this crazy kickboxing thing that you've never done before, and you're in good physical shape, but this is some next level stuff, and maybe you're just whatever, too old to do it. Are you going to allow whatever that injury is to stop you from moving forward? Every warrior that I follow doesn't. They feel it. It's not fun. Sometimes they get down, they get discouraged. I know that because I felt that this past week. Sometimes it seems like where they were and now where they are now, it seems like light years away. And so you experience that, and they're not afraid to experience all the emotions that come along with that injury. And so they allow themselves to go through that process. They don't try and avoid it. They don't try and sort of, because, if you're being spiritual, you always have to say good things, right? You always have to say roses and sunshine and all that kind of stuff. Believe me, I swore a whole bunch of times. When I was at the chiropractor, trying to get on the table, off the table, massage therapist, boy, you turn the wrong way and that back spasmed like that. Oh, yeah, I tell you, words that come out of my mouth. And that's okay. That's part of that process. But then when you go through that and you allow that process to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, I've talked about this before too, the emotional journey, right? It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Then what's underneath that starts to rise up. And it's like, okay, so I'm going to figure out, I'm going to, in my case, rehab this injury. Yes, I'm limited in what I can do right now, but there's things I can do right now. My limits went from here to here, okay, but I can still push through where my limits are like right now. So maybe I can't go and throw like a head high roundhouse kick or something right now, like I could 5 days ago. Doesn't mean I won't get back to it. These are my limits now. I can still push through the limits where I'm at now. Maybe they were here and I was pushing through, and now they've shrunk to here. But there's still limits that I can push through. I can fight back, just like how I started in the beginning. And I really believe the true test and the refining, I was going to say refining, of becoming that spiritual warrior is, what do you do when the injuries happen? Whether it's physical, whether it's non-physical, whether it's situational. What do you do when those happen? What do you do when the things that you'd never wanted to happen? What do you do with that? That's what refines us. I mean, it's so cliche, but it's that steel, like that's heated up in the fire, and then wham, bang, bang, and it just refines it, and it tempers it, and it strengthens it. I really don't think there's really any shortcut to that. That is part of the process. That so many people are not willing, because it's difficult and it's challenging and it's painful and it's hard to go through. They would rather essentially fall asleep and sort of peacefully go from life to death. But for those of you that are watching this, that's not you. You want to live. You want to live life to the fullest. You want to grow and expand beyond your limitations. That's what I've always desired to do, is do the best of my ability to map those paths out, be able to come back and share what I've learned with you so you can walk your walk. I'm walking my walk, you're walking yours. We can't walk each other's paths for us, for each other, but we can inspire each other. And that's always been my role. My role from the very beginning. I can remember, I'll close with this. The vision that I saw in my head is one of being not just a map maker, but the one who experienced it and explored it, then created the tools, and then to come back and share them with you so you can choose how to grow and expand and evolve, because that's what we were put here to do.